on. So men don't even know, they can't even conceptualize these hormone shifts because they've not gone through them, right? Men are just sailing on like they always have. And as women, we're hitting a brick wall and we're angry and we're tired and we're gaining weight and our whole body hurts and everyone makes us mad. And then we're taking care of elderly parents and children and working and having brain fog and wondering if we have dementia, and then someone wants to have sex with you and you're just like, I would rather mop the floor and wash the dishes. That's just not even on my radar. It's just not even a consideration. And it's really hard because then men tend to internalize that, whether it's lack of libido, lack of lubrication, or lack of orgasm. Men take that as oh, I'm not attractive, or oh, I'm not doing my job, or oh, it used to not be that way. Like a lot of men think the degree of, say, lubrication in a woman is an indication of arousal. That's not true. That just gets harder as you get older and as estrogen goes away.
Welcome to Couples Unfiltered, a podcast where we discuss love, loss, relationships, and the journey. I'm Lionel Salisbury.
And I'm Natalie Galley Salisbury. We must first start out by saying we are not licensed therapists, and these discussions are based solely on our experiences and our opinions. Today we are exploring a topic that's incredibly personal for me, one that's reshaped my life and family in ways I hadn't anticipated. Women's health needs extend beyond reproductive care. And menopause is a profound, often under-discussed transition that impacts not just our bodies, but our mental well-being and relationships. Menopause can bring intense changes that ripple into our daily lives and partnerships. Many women feel isolated or misunderstood, and I face this myself, struggling with mood shifts, physical symptoms that weren't fully addressed by the usual interventions and temporary fixes. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome my own doctor, Dr. Jennifer Davis of San Diego Menopause, a certified menopause specialist. Her expertise and compassionate approach have been a guiding light for me and many others seeking control over their health. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having
so much for
Thanks
coming.
for being here.
I have to say that I have been on the search for a doctor for so long. And I went to my regular doctor, I went to my OBGYN, I went to an orthopedist, I went to a neurologist, trying to find what was wrong with me for a very long time. And then I started going down a rabbit hole of social media posts and realized that I may be amongst a huge group of women who are experiencing perimenopause. And then, outside of doing my own little things, I started searching for a doctor because I didn't know what I was doing. Even though I was a nurse, I was like, I don't know what the heck this is about. This is very confusing. Everything I was told before doesn't match up, and I needed help. So I started Googling, and wonderfully, your website popped up. It was like my entry into Google was San Diego menopause doctor. And then it popped up. You got so lucky that you picked that San Diego menopause. San Diego menopause is like perfect. So, and then I found you. And then you were smart. I was so happy. It wasn't just what do you call it when you go down the chain, the cows and the, you know how we say it's like a, I always look at him when I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm trying to pull it. I'm trying.
You know, it's like you go into a doctor's office. Yeah, and it's like, next.
Oh, herding cattle, yes.
Yeah, herding cattle. And it wasn't like that at all. So it was a very wonderful experience going into your office. Yeah, I appreciated that.
That's important to us.
Yeah. And I must share those same thoughts because when I came home, the day she had her appointment, she was extremely excited to have understood what was going on. Like It was like the light bulb came on. Yeah. You cleared off the window for her. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So as we get started, let's talk about your journey to become a physician, and how did you pick this specific profession?
Well, I didn't until perimenopause sort of kicked me in the face. So I was a pediatrician for 20 years. And I loved pediatrics. I was at the Children's Hospital. I had a private practice. I was managing a lot of people and had a lot of patients. And the level of burnout that I got to was something that I didn't even know was possible. I was just exhausted. I guess at that time I was 43 to 44. I had no idea. Perimenopause and menopause were not even on my radar as a possibility. They weren't even a thought in my head because I was under 50. And so I went through divorce and COVID and just decided that I could not be a doctor anymore. I was done. I sold my practice. Everyone thought I was crazy, and I took a year off. 20% of women actually quit their jobs in the perimenopause menopause transition because they just can't manage the changes, the lack of sleep, all the mood and energy shifts. So I made myself take a year off. And then it was probably 2 months after I sold my practice that I started having hot flashes or night sweats all night long. And I stopped sleeping. I slept about 3 hours a night for a couple of months before it occurred to me that these were hormonal changes. So that I was 45 when that happened. And I started going down the same rabbit hole because I had never in any of my medical training had menopause been brought up at any point, which is the norm, unfortunately. And I knew that I needed hormones. I was actually on birth control at the time, which is interesting because birth control does not manage menopause symptoms other than periods. And I started looking for a doctor. My regular doctor, even knowing what it was, I couldn't get anyone to treat me appropriately in a timely manner. My doctor wanted to give me Paxil, but I wasn't depressed. And I tried to get into some specialty clinics that had waits of 10 to 12 months. And so I started doing my own research and treating myself, and then decided, as I watched all of my friends have the same journey and the same frustrations, that I needed to figure out how to do this as a profession, that this was something I was passionate about. And I had some mentors, like fortunately Mary Claire Haver spent some time helping me get training and guiding me along the path to get certified and sort of helping coach me. And here we are. So I opened the clinic in February of this year. So, but now we've seen 500 women since then. And we do longer appointments. So pretty big number for the first year so far.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, before we dive in deeper, you said a lot of things, divorce, COVID, and although you weren't depressed, I'm sure there's a lot of people that might have been going through some level of depression and could have used some counseling. So if you don't mind, let's take a pause to thank our sponsors, BetterHelp.
Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in a world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And this is why we're excited to tell you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding therapy easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the description. It's betterhelp.com/couplesunfiltered. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gets 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. When I lost my first wife to a terminal illness, therapy helped me navigate my feelings as well as help me communicate with my children about losing their mother. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/couples unfiltered. That's better, HELP.com/couples unfiltered. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel.
So you mentioned Mary Claire Haver. She was one of the people that I started watching on Instagram, and then I started going to her website, and I went to her link where she can refer you to doctors in your area who specialize in menopause and have been certified by the Menopause Society. So you were on that list, and that's pretty much how I originally found you, but I also found you Googling, but I was confirmed to actually go see you because of that website. So I really appreciated that she had that list, and I've been referring people to her site since then because I know people all over the place, right? And the ones I know in San Diego, I've given your number to, so you may have some people saying that I sent you to. No referrals, no paid referrals, but it's funny because I'm just so passionate about this too, and I think it's because so many of us are looking for the answers, and we don't know who to go to for them. And there's funny memes on social media now with women going to their doctors, and their doctors, I don't know what to do. It's just menopause. Like, you're just going to have to go through it. And I think it's an amazing time right now where we have this movement and these women, these really smart doctors who are helping other women, and they're stepping out of their zones, because even OBGYNs are stepping out of their practice zones to get in a different lane.
Correct.
To be focused on this. And I think it's just wonderful. So for all of us out there who don't know, which there's a lot, mostly men, mostly women that just never had to think about it, can you briefly give us a synopsis about like what the woman's body goes through during puberty, at the beginning of perimenopause and menopause, and like how are all these things different?
Of course. So we'll just briefly do puberty the main relevance to puberty is that the hormone shifts in perimenopause are greater than those in puberty. So in puberty, you're having these highs and lows, and we know how moody girls can be in that transition, and then you finally sort of settle out and get into a rhythm, although your rhythm is monthly, right? And you have times that you feel great and times that you don't feel great, and you finally get used to those monthly cycles and how to manage them. And then no one tells you, and you don't see it coming, but estrogen starts to decline and progesterone starts to decline. And this has to do with your egg supply. We're born with all of our eggs. We lose them throughout our entire lives. And there's a massive range of what is normal. So normal full menopause, meaning 12 months without a period, is 45 to 55. So it is normal for a woman to be fully menopausal at 45. People don't realize 1 to 3% of the population is fully menopausal at 40, which is shocking. Those women are really struggling because perimenopause is depending on what you read, 4 to 10 years or 7 to 10 years before menopause. So it is completely normal for a woman to start having perimenopause symptoms in her late 30s.
And that's hard to convince people of because they are just like, no, I just had a kid 2 years ago.
Right.
And they forget that that has a lot to do with it too, right? Well, not a lot, but it affects it, right? How many children you have and when you start having children and all of that, right?
Correct. When you are pregnant, you are not ovulating, so you are preserving eggs. So in general, the more pregnancies, the later the menopause, but it doesn't always hold true.
It could be by a few months or something's short, like a short amount of time.
It can. Family history plays in, autoimmune disease plays in. There's lots of different things that can affect it, but women that have had a lot of children will often be a little bit later into menopause.
Okay. So I read something the other day that really got under my skin as I was preparing for this episode. And I Googled it. Like I said, what is perimenopause? Just in Google, right? And Johns Hopkins Medicine popped up. And the definition said, perimenopause is the time around menopause when your ovaries gradually stop working. This is a natural process that causes physical and emotional symptoms. It does not need treatment. So let me just say, I went to watch the movie that came out recently on PBS called The M Factor. And that movie is awesome. It's 1 hour. I'm telling everyone you can do anything for an hour, just watch the movie. And I found one of the doctors on there, Dr. Wen Shen, and she works for Johns Hopkins. So I emailed her and I said, hey, I just want you to know that you're representing this hospital and you're talking about menopause, and I think it's wonderful and great, and I thank you for everything. But can you tell them to change the definition? Because it sounds to me like they're basically saying it's not a big deal. Like you can tolerate it, you can handle it. And I was really upset about that. So her assistant got back to me. She was a little confused because she thought I was saying in general the Googles had that as a definition, and I'm like, no, Johns Hopkins has that as a definition. She was like, oh, I'll let her know. She'll make sure she changes. Somebody changes that. So that's kind of like the idea around all of it right now. I feel like people don't think it's very serious, but I can tell you that in a relationship, this is a serious thing.
It is.
And I know a lot of women who, like you said, you know people too that they're in their 40s and they're just like divorcing because they're done. And they're not tolerating things anymore. And I have this kind of proverbial wall that I hit of tolerance. And generally speaking, it's kind of like we get to this point where we call it, we get to our 50s. Like I turned 50 and I remember saying, I'm at that age where I can give less Fs. But it's really just, that's part of it, but the perimenopause sent me there quicker. And I didn't realize what I was going through. So here I have this, new relationship. We're kind of newlyweds. We've been married 5 years. But he hasn't experienced any kind of ups and downs like that since his last child was born, because his late wife had a hysterectomy. Yeah. And so she didn't have the ups and downs. It was just like kind of predictable. At least in relation to having a regular period every month, right? So he was in shock by some of the behavior I had, because he's like, well, you loved me yesterday. Why all of a sudden are you acting this way? And he's trying to figure out, like, what did I do? And I have to remind him, you didn't do anything. It's not you, it's me. And
it's so important. I tell you, this could have just been a you and Dr. Davis episode, but what's going on with you and how you're changing is important to me, and it's important to our relationship. So I want to know too. I want to know, how can I be the very best version of myself with you while you're going through this new journey in your life.
Well, but it's crazy because like so many men don't realize that it isn't about them, and we don't even realize that it's not about the relationship. Because I go through periods of time where your libido's low. And I know that that's pretty normal for some women in general, but just the lack of interest in physical touch and that moody, intolerant behavior to other people, not just your spouse, your children, your children's teachers, your coworkers. I've never been depressed in a way that wasn't directly related to an incident, and I have had moments in the month where I'm like, am I depressed? Is this ever going to go away? Like, I feel disconnected to everything. I don't care anymore. And it's unfortunate that we are kind of kicked to the side as women in this this day, I guess, and not even this day. It's just the lack of education from the other physicians that you can go to. And I hate to say, like, I'm talking down about the medical, profession, but it really is just a lack of knowledge, and I'm passionate about everybody kind of educating themselves, because this is our job to know our own bodies, and we need to be better about this, and we need to have supportive people in our lives who are watching the movies and listening to the podcasts and reading the books together, because the more you understand, the better you can deal with things. And therapy's great, but therapy can't get rid of those symptoms.
Can I add a couple statistics?
Please do, yes.
Please, yes.
So saying it's normal, it's different for every woman. So 85% of women have really significant symptoms. So we mentioned 20% quit their jobs. 60% of all divorces are initiated by women in their 40s and 50s, all divorces. And when we look at suicide rates, the highest rate of suicide in women in the UK is age 45 to 49, and in the US is age 45 to 54. Women in this age group are committing suicide more than, say, teenage girls or women in their 20s. The neurotransmitter changes are real and they are significant. It's not for every woman. We're all wired differently. But it is a major, to say it does not need treatment is such a huge disservice to women. Some women might not need treatment. Most women would benefit from treatment. And some women are severely affected. I have suicidal women in my office, several every month.
Wow.
Several every month. And then they are better within a few weeks of estrogen, typically.
Yeah.
And it's these mood changes begin when their hormones begin changing. So it's important for women, when you say things online like does not need treatment, and you're Hopkins, someone reads that and says, oh, well, I must just be crazy. This is just me. I'm alone in this, right? I'm unusual. I need to, no, people aren't talking about it because there's shame and guilt, but women are going through this. It's half of our population for 40% of our lives, and late perimenopause is often the hardest, most symptomatic part.
Well, what about even just the protection that estrogen gives us? So that's a whole issue for me, that it doesn't need treatment. Come on, what about all the protection and the benefits?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We know that if you start hormone therapy within 10 years of menopause, you have a 50% reduction in cardiovascular disease and heart attack, a 50% reduction in osteoporosis and fracture, a 30% reduction in type 2 diabetes, a 40 to 60% reduction in dementia, depending on which type you're looking at. You stop the weight gain that on average is 25 pounds for women. You can maintain your lean muscle mass. You can preserve your vaginal health. The list goes on and on of the benefits to your quality of life on hormone therapy, for sure.
And then, the hot flashes are things that people refer to as that's menopause. That's what people hear. Oh, I don't have any hot flashes. I'm not in menopause. I don't have hot flashes. But the brain fog and the joint pain and the lack of sleep and the weight gain. I mean, I remember one day feeling like I woke up and I put all my clothes on and I just couldn't fit them anymore in the same. Like I would pull them on my legs, but then around my waist, I couldn't button them. And then I would exercise and eat different and nothing would change. And it's like that starts the whole cycle of what the hell is wrong with me? I guess it's just normal. I'm getting older. And it doesn't have to be that way. And, there's so much nutritional information out there too for us as we start to lose our estrogen. We need to change the way we eat because we need more protein and we need to eliminate other things that maybe we thought weren't a problem. And the fiber and all the information that is out there right now, it's really simple stuff. It really is simple changes to make to your life.
It is. It becomes a new way of life because there's so many things
Yeah.
that you can do.
Yeah, but for being miserable versus not eating that anymore, or stop, jogging, just walk. Stop trying to do these hardcore, boot camp exercising, and killing yourself when it's really, you don't need all of that. You need to make the subtle changes that will eventually take care of things.
It's amazing that we're having this conversation. I always say I grew up on the porch. So I would listen to my parents, my grandmother, my mom, my aunties, and they would always talk about this. Not always, but often. They would talk about hot flashes, and they're talking about the loss of the romantic feelings. One, where did it change? Where did we start seeing or finding the education to say, okay, something's wrong, we need to make adjustments? And what are some of the things that you're hearing about that's more personal in relationships that maybe we can take back, or I can take back to men that I'm in my same age group, to go back home and say, okay, these are some things that you can be aware of? And
Right, absolutely. there was a study in 2002 that wrecked hormone therapy, which we can go into later if you guys want to, or now, but 40% of women of menopausal age were on hormone therapy before that study, and then it became 5% overnight, basically. And they pretty much stopped training Western medicine doctors, and it became dogma in Western medicine that hormone therapy is bad for you. So we have a whole generation of women that were denied hormone therapy. My mother is one of these. She has Alzheimer's. Would she have that had she been given hormone therapy? We don't know, but maybe not. So fast forward to now, I don't know exactly why the change happened. People say because Gen X women are just not going to put up with this anymore. And then we have people like, we're just like, this is in just talking about not tolerating. I am not going to tolerate feeling this way when there are options for me. And there has been 2 decades of research out there showing the benefits of hormone therapy. And so you've got people like Mary Claire Haver and Heather Hirsch and Kelly Casperson and Louise Newsom in the UK really pushing this conversation forward. And I think social media has been instrumental because you're sitting at home and you don't even know. You ask some of these older women and they'll tell you, oh, menopause was not that big of a deal, because they don't know all the symptoms of menopause, because they had no idea it was their 30-pound weight gain, their joint pain, their depression, their anxiety, their loss of libido, their vaginal pain. They thought it was hot flashes because that's all they had ever been told.
My goodness.
So, but the loss, when we look at relationships, I think there's a couple different things. One is sort of the anger and rage that most women will get, and that's typically neurotransmitter changes. So estrogen is intimately linked to serotonin and dopamine. I think these are probably the 2 biggest for relationships. When we talk about brain fog, norepinephrine comes in. But serotonin is your happy neurotransmitter. Oxytocin is also affected. That's your lovey-dovey, snuggle up chemical.
You got about 2 more days, man.
I know.
Right. So these are all down. And so it's just, I mean, I had those changes severely, and I would get out of bed and just be like, I dare someone to start with me. You were just loaded for bear.
I feel that so strongly.
You know, and sometimes you just have to scream or rage or cry or let it out. But it's, and I now, because I talk to women all day, I can see it when it happens in me. I can be like, oh, this is your serotonin's down. Like maybe close your mouth and don't say that, because this is a you problem right now. So there's just a lot of anger and rage and absolute intolerance, and you know, some of it is justified because women have gone through a lot, but a lot of it is you just don't feel good. You're also not sleeping. Right? That's one of the biggest complaints in perimenopause and menopause. So you've got kind of a hairpin trigger. You're not sleeping. The not sleeping contributes to the anger and also the loss of libido. So then we've got our dopamine over here, which is a joy neurotransmitter, executive functioning, and libido. So somewhere between, it's about 80% of women that have a sexual issue in this transition. For most of them, it's loss of libido or desire. For some of them, it's difficulty orgasming. And for up to about 50% or more, it's vaginal pain. It's pain and difficulty with sex. And it is massive. I would say that those statistics are even an underestimation. So men don't even know, they can't even conceptualize these hormone shifts because they've not gone through them, right? Men are just sailing on like they always have. And as women, we're hitting a brick wall, and we're angry and we're tired and we're gaining weight and our whole body hurts and everyone makes us mad, and then we're taking care of elderly parents and children and working and having brain fog and wondering if we have dementia, and then someone wants to have sex with you and you're just like, I would rather mop the floor and wash the dishes. That's just not even on my radar. It's just not even a consideration. And it's really hard because then men tend to internalize that, whether it's lack of libido, lack of lubrication, or lack of orgasm. Men take that as oh, I'm not attractive, or oh, I'm not doing my job, or oh, it used to not be that way. Like a lot of men think the degree of, say, lubrication in a woman is an indication of arousal. That's not true. That just gets harder as you get older. And as estrogen goes away, it isn't a reflection of I'm not attracted to you. It's like, well, this is my body now, and we have ways to help that. But I think I can't imagine being a man and having a partner with severe symptoms, because it is major if you don't know what's going on. And I have met some of the most wonderful men in this practice because they are doing the research and they are making their wives appointments and they are coming to me because they're like, I know this isn't her. I know she's not feeling good. I know there's something that we can help here, but it's massive. I'm also in a wonderful new relationship with just the most amazing human I could imagine. And there are days that I am just mean and unreasonable and have a hard time feeling affectionate and feeling loving. And I know those are the days that I tell myself, I'm like, you just need to be quiet. I tell him my brain is not working well that day and that I need a little space because I know that I'll probably feel better tomorrow or the next time. And
well, also the worst thing you can do when you're feeling that way is try to be intimate with your partner because it's not there's no connection. Right. And then you're having this lack of connection, intimacy, which makes you start to feel, or maybe they can tell, that they feel like there's something wrong because we're not connecting. And then all the thoughts start coming in like, are you cheating on me? Are you interested in, like, are you watching porn? Why don't you care about me anymore? Because even though it's coming from you as the woman, the other person who's affected by that is, you're the one that's still not feeling the connection.
Right, and they take it personally. They're making it about them, and it's really that your whole world has shifted mentally and physically, and sex is so not a priority in that time frame, right? It's not, and usually stress levels are incredibly high at this point, right? Women are either at the peak of their career, or like I said, managing elderly parents is common. So you don't have any less stress in your life, and now you're exhausted and feel terrible, and then hey, there's still sex.
I think since I was a teenager, I was always saying, you know what? After this life, I'm going to come back as a guy because this is so hard. And I remember having changes, that I was aware of too when I was younger. But I'm just like, I've been saying that all my life. Like, I mean, I enjoy my life, but I don't. If I had to choose, I don't want to do this again. This cycle stuff.
I tell you, communication is key. Open and honest communication. And we have a coffee conversations that we do, and we talked about intimacy, not sexual, but intimacy. Having conversations, finding ways to connect that's not sexual. And I think for me, I think that's been very helpful for us. Yeah. Because we're able to have these conversations. We're able to be completely honest with each other and say, you know what? Today I'm not really feeling it.
You're also boosting oxytocin when you do that.
And he's very good at massaging me, and he's very good at just cuddling with me knowing he's not going to be wanting sex. Yeah. So there's like this safety of, yes, I do love you, and I want you to hold me right now. Right now, maybe not in 10 minutes, but right now I want you to hold me.
It's like being a cat.
Yeah.
All right, get off me.
But where I know that there's going to be no pressure of sex because he knows that I'm not wanting that right now, and it would be bad for both of us because, like I said, I wouldn't be connected. So let's just do what I can do so that we can still be on that same level of communication, whether it be verbally or just, energy, that we're understanding that I'm going through something, and in order for us both to survive this relationship, while I'm going to this thing I can't really control, I can manage the symptoms. But yeah, it's very important that he, as a man or as my partner, understands.
And there are multiple ways to have intimacy. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it keeps sort of the loving feelings, oxytocin, the understanding, without the pressure of sex. I absolutely agree. That's hugely important. And it's one of there's exercises and things to sort of bring couples back to like an arousal state, and they often involve non-physical intimacy. So one is called sensate focus. It's looking, things like that. Those are huge.
Yeah. And I hope that the partners of women going through this can understand that they have to be patient, and they have to actually lean in to being part of the journey of the healing or the finding out the answers or whatever is going to work for each woman. And, speaking of that, there's a lot of women that I've talked to that are, they're like, no, I'm not ready to go take hormones, and I don't think I need that right now. And they feel very kind of, anti-intervention because of their age. And I've actually had a few questions from some of them I wrote them down because they were generally the same questions I keep getting asked over and over again, and I'm not trying to answer the questions. I'm like, nope, I'm not that kind of nurse.
We are not licensed therapists.
Yes, we are not licensed anything, right? Well, I'm licensed, but not, yeah. So one of the questions is, how early can a woman seek HRT, hormone replacement therapy? How early can they do it if they start feeling any symptoms?
Right. The first thing I want to address real quick is that women are saying, no, I don't want to take anything. I just to sort of challenge, I think it's because we've all been taught to fear. Like, one of the greatest disservices we've done for women is to teach them to fear something that their body makes. And this has been very powerful since this 2002 study. I have my own opinions, but we have been taught to fear this. And it is a huge problem. It's programming. So there is no other hormone in the human body that when it declines, we don't instantly replace it. This is specific to women. I personally feel like this is just a kind of another way to hold women down. Nobody questions testosterone for men. And estrogen is so much more important to women. And testosterone is paid for by insurance, just like that for men. It's just not even hard to get. But for us, something that's linked to heart disease, dementia, osteoporosis, mental health, all of that is like, well, you shouldn't do that because menopause is natural. And most of us think menopause is actually not that natural because it doesn't happen in the animal world. Animals don't really go through menopause. Maybe one whale and one giraffe, which the grandmothers are protective of the babies, but otherwise animals procreate, raise their babies, die. We did that too until the 1800s. We've been here for several 100,000 years, and now we're living twice as long. We haven't evolved.
Suffering.
Now I'm going to suffer for 40 years. So it's just, there's different ideas, but you should look at, where did you get the idea that you should suffer? Who gave you that? And how have you been programmed to feel that way? And sort of take that back. I also see hormones like vitamins. If I'm low in vitamin D, I'm going to take vitamin D. Most hormones are bioidentical now. It's not, to me, a medicine. I am replacing what my body is lacking. If someone told you they were hypothyroid, you would not say, tough cookies. You'd say, you should take thyroid hormone.
Well, everything that starts failing in our bodies, we go and fix.
Right. And you know what is natural? Heart disease, cancer, broken bones, meningitis, sepsis. You know what we do? We intervene medically for those people. Those things are all natural. So why do we just choose when it comes to women that we're not going to intervene? So it drives me crazy. It's a huge double standard. But as far as when should you seek care, if you listen to the FDA and to the US guidelines, it is when you have hot flashes, vaginal changes, or osteopenia is when you should start seeking care. If you look at the United Kingdom, who is a little bit further along than us, they will treat for brain fog, joint pain, these other types of signs. And so we can treat sort of off-label for those. The truth is the vast majority of women are either going to have hot flashes or vaginal changes. But it's time to intervene when it is affecting your quality of life.
Right. And none of
That's the
those
biggest thing.
symptoms are anything but something that someone can verbalize to a doctor. So there's no test that they can take to say they don't have hot flashes, or that they aren't feeling brain fog, or that they aren't having joint pain. If you say that you have these things, that matches up. It equals perimenopause. So, and a lot of women ask me, with one of the other questions was, well, don't I have to get lab work, and don't I have to pee in a cup for 3 days? And, my doctor checked my numbers and they're normal.
There's sort of two schools of thought. So naturopathic medicine kind of picked up the ball when Western medicine gave up on women in 2002. And they use compounded medicines, and they do a lot more checking of labs. It's just sort of a different style. So I'm on the Mary Claire Haver side of things. Unless you are unusual or a medical mystery, we don't need labs. And in perimenopausal women, they're not useful. So if you're 52 and you haven't had periods for a year and you have hot flashes, guess what? It's menopause. You have all these symptoms. Now, if you're 39 and you're having some symptoms and things aren't clear, well, I might get labs in you. In the average perimenopausal woman, estrogen can be sky high on Monday and nothing on Saturday. And so getting labs on her is going to tell you what she was that day. It's not going to tell you the dose that she needs. It's not going to tell you why she's suffering the last 2 weeks of the month. The exception to that rule is testosterone. If women choose to go on testosterone, we do need a level because it comes from the ovaries and the adrenal glands, so it's not always low. So, and it doesn't fluctuate at the level that estrogen does. So the majority of women don't need labs to start hormone therapy. And sadly, a lot of what's out there with testing and supplements and all of that is just to make money, right?
Yeah,
So if we
yeah.
teach women to fear hormone therapy, we can convince them to spend $200 a month on all this other stuff
Yeah.
that is a
I was doing that
tiny,
too.
tiny Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
So speaking of that, there are some ways that I know that people who like say, absolutely, I'm not doing HRT, but they want to find some kind of way of, getting their symptoms reduced. And one of the pathways I was kind of sent on was, number one, to decrease the amount of alcohol you drink. And I know that I'm not saying every woman drinks alcohol, but if you do drink alcohol on a regular basis of any kind, even just on the weekends, the decrease in drinking will help with inflammation and make it so that you're not having such intense levels of some of those symptoms. I know that it reduced my night sweats probably by like 50% by just not drinking.
Right.
And the increase in the protein and the vitamin D, omega-3s, multivitamins, resistance training, walking, decreasing the amount of greasy, fatty, spicy foods and caffeine you ingest, which of course could be great for anybody to stop doing that. Do you have any opinions on collagen?
I do want to make a comment on the alcohol real quick. I get a lot of younger women that come in and they're like, oh, I'm just gaining weight and I want to get ahead of things, but they don't really have symptoms. And so to me, it's not just decreasing alcohol, think about decreasing inflammation. So estrogen is anti-inflammatory. So perimenopause and menopause are inflammatory states. So simple sugary foods, soda. I personally don't think caffeine is that bad for us. And given the fatigue of perimenopause, I don't even suggest it. I'm like, if you need some coffee to not murder people, by all means, please have it.
I agree.
But when we look at anything that increases inflammation, it's going to worsen menopause symptoms. So I tell those women, I'm like, you know what? Put on as much muscle mass as you can. Get a good mindfulness, gratitude, journaling practice, and do anything you can to decrease inflammation. As far as collagen goes, there are some brands that have paid to show either that they decrease wrinkles or increase bone density or can help with tendons. I think, so I try to buy the brands that have done studies to actually show that their products work.
Okay, real talk. This was me back in 2007. I've never really struggled with skin and hair concerns. I mean, I've always had thick curly hair and clear skin, but now I'm 51. Hello, perimenopause. My hair isn't as thick, it doesn't grow the way it used to, and let's be honest, my skin is throwing me curveballs too. So I've been educating myself and making changes. I've recently started HRT, in addition to making other lifestyle changes. One of the last changes I've made was adding a daily collagen to my routine. The unfortunate truth is, as we go through perimenopause, the decline in estrogen leads to a decrease in collagen production. And collagen is the key when it comes to maintaining skin elasticity and strength, not to mention all of the other benefits. Enter Jamie Nicole's Beauty Collagen. This stuff is a game changer. Jamie's formula includes 3 powerhouse ingredients: Verisol, Fortibone, and Fortigel. These are designed to support your skin, hair, connective tissue, and even your bones. My favorite part is that it's flavorless and dissolves perfectly, so I can just add it to my coffee every morning and not forget. So if you've been on the fence about collagen, trust me, now's the time to give it a try. Learn more and start your journey to nourish what's inside so you can glow on the outside. Go to JamieNicoleBeautyCollagen.com or click the link in the description to get 10% off your purchase with our promo code.
So I have concerns more about the joint pain, the origin of my joint pain, thinking, is it going to get worse as I get older? And will it have something eventually affecting, osteoarthritis? And my mother had pretty strong bones. She barely fractured something when she was older, but she was also had a lot of padding. So, but I do fear, I find myself walking down the stairs and I'm like holding on tight because I'm like, if I fall, I'm at an age right now where who knows, I might break something, not realizing that I have less bone density than I thought I did because, in your mind, you're still young.
You still have a lot of your bone density.
Yeah.
The bone density losses are significant in perimenopause without hormone therapy, but hormone therapy is very good at stopping that resorption of bone or that loss of bone density. So estrogen won't treat osteoporosis, but it's very good at preventing it and preserving bone density.
So for women who don't want to do HRT.
Right. Oh, yeah. We actually had a question we were addressing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. But I'm saying like collagen is a good resource.
I think collagen is reasonable. I like creatine too. So creatine helps with energy. It helps with workouts and stamina. My workouts changed immensely when I started doing creatine. And for some reason, we think it helps with brain fog too, probably providing a fuel source to the brain. And creatine may or may not help with osteoporosis, but there's some studies to show that creatine and osteoporosis have a relationship as well. So I like collagen, I like creatine, I like magnesium at bedtime. I like
my magnesium,
turmeric or curcumin to decrease inflammation, and then build muscle.
Yeah. I used to look like a football player when I was younger. Like the muscle I can put on and the muscle definition I had the ability to have was always something I was very proud of, and I didn't have to work very hard at it. And then I slowly started noticing that there's a little layer of fat on top of that. What's going on with that?
You still have lovely muscle. So
I have like the undertones of the muscle. You could tell that I like about playing sports when I was younger, but it's not the same. But yes, so I'm starting a collagen journey as well, but I wanted to separate that from everything else because I needed to know what was working and what wasn't working. So I would slowly start each one of these things. And like I said, I did all of the supplements before. Right. Then about 6 months into it, I realized this is barely touching me. And I decided, I think it's time for me to go see you. So I'm starting collagen now. I have a friend actually who has her own collagen. She has a business where she makes her own collagen. Jamie Nicole Beauty. Throw that down there. She's local, but she has a great collagen business, and she's says hers is better than Mary Claire's.
I'll have to check it out. That's exciting.
Jamie Nicole Beauty. But yeah, so we will link her information on the website. But I really think that it's great that you exist and other doctors like you exist because this is like huge. These, I have friends that they say, oh, should I just go to my OBGYN? And should I just call my doctor? Like, how do I get started with this? And I'm like, you can. But you might want to do some research on your own first so you have questions and that you know exactly what you need to ask. So when you walk in the door, you have the information in your hand and you have some answers to see if your doctor even knows some of the answers. And then you can decide if you want to stay with that doctor or if you want to go see someone else. And if you do want to see somebody else, I have that person for you. She's sitting right here.
Well, I gotta
say, you do telehealth, right?
Oh, sorry.
You do telehealth?
I do telehealth. And I think maybe asking if your doctor prescribes hormone therapy is a good idea, and also making a separate appointment, right? So as doctors, I have chosen to leave the insurance model because I need more than 10 minutes to have this conversation. And so that's what an average, sick visit is booking is a 10 or 15 minute slot if you're lucky. So if you are at your annual exam or the doctor's doing your pap smear, talking about colonoscopy, and you want to throw out menopause in the last 3 minutes, it's going to go poorly. Yeah. So sort of thinking through that, having done your own research is tremendous because the vast majority of doctors are not trained in this and either don't have the time or interest or knowledge to sort of do it properly. And so seeking out someone that does is helpful.
Yeah, that's major.
Well, I got to say, I'm team wife. So I appreciate what you and other doctors like you are doing with closing the gap. You made a point to say it's not even, and it's not. Something goes on with the man, testosterone, we have something for it. Erectile dysfunction, we have something for it. But you let your lady suffer, and that's wrong.
Right? Who are all those men supposed to be having sex with, right?
Exactly.
We're getting them all geared up, and then the women are crying in pain with no libido.
I know.
Exactly. They're
having sex with the computer.
Yeah.
Or they're cheating and or leaving their wives, and they're going with these younger women.
But we want to get their libido up, and it's like, wait a minute.
Should we balance this thing out?
Right.
Help you.
You know, it's
Right.
So I appreciate it because I think it's important. I grew up with in the kitchen with mom, and she's cooking and she's talking and she's telling stories and watching the stories, and it's like I didn't connect it until now. And talking to my wife and understanding what she's going through and really having unfiltered conversations.
Yeah, because you're going to hear what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell it.
And I want to know, and I want to be able to help out in whichever way that I can, even if it's eating the popcorn in the next room. Then so be it. I'll do that.
Is it loud?
Oh my God! I say he has amplifiers in his ears because when he chews, the inside of his mouth comes out of his ears like an amplifier. And I'm like, babe, are you eating? What are you eating right now? He's like, I'm eating like tangerines or clementines. And I'm like, why does it sound like you're chewing rocks?
Yeah.
Like, can you go to the kitchen?
That is intolerable.
What is it? So we're not alone. We're not alone. And it's not you.
I know.
You can chew however you need to. Please chew so you don't choke. Mm-hmm. And if I hit you in the throat, that's a different situation for why you're choking.
I'm going to eat like...
Hazard.
What are your earplugs? Ooh, maybe that's something I should invent. You know what I also want to invent is parties for women. When
it's massive.
We need, that everybody's having these Botox parties where they're going and they're injecting your faces. How about let's have a perimenopause party or even a menopause party. When you go to menopause, let's have a party for you.
We need to. Like you talked about my name. Everybody wanted me to call my clinic blah, 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 wellness. And I was like, you know what? This is BS. Yeah. Menopause is a thing that everyone just needs to normalize. Right. And so like everywhere I go, I talk about menopause and vaginas. And we just need to take away the shame around that. And so we know when women talk and realize they're not alone and they're all going through this together, that they do better. Yeah. And then honestly, we were talking earlier about the movement. Men have been left out of this movement, and that's unfortunate because women are just figuring out what's happening, and you guys are not even on the inside of that. Yeah. So it's like they can have groups for survivors. Survivors.
Oh, that's a great idea, babe.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
If you are partnered with someone in this age group, you should also talk to your friends to realize that you're not alone, right? And that there are, so literally everywhere I go now, parties, dinners, whatever, this is the conversation, yoga, and people are on me just constantly because they are desperate to have the conversation, but taking away the shame is hugely important. And then, the community support, all of that, regardless of what your opinion is on hormone therapy or not, at least to know that you are not alone.
This is something big. Like, I feel like that's something, if you have the bandwidth for it, that, if someone wants to request you show up at a party, you're like the entertainment for the women if they're having
I've been doing that. I've done several of them. So women they'll have 15 or 20 women at their house for like a happy hour or whatever, and I go and they just throw questions at me. I do probably like one a month.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that.
I went on a menopause cruise.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. And actually, I'm so glad that I didn't know that you studied with her and Dr. Mary Claire Haver, and that you actually met her, and you I don't know what it's called, like a fellowship or something. What is it?
No, it was not that formal, but with this, I studied under Heather Hirsch's training program, basically. Okay. So fellowships are like a year or two under someone. Okay. So,
but you were on a cruise ship with these women who you're asking them questions about stuff you maybe have questions about.
They turned the cruise into an educational. There were lectures every day. Yeah, the cruise was phenomenal, but it was also there were 150 women, I think, that everyone was experiencing menopausal symptoms or perimenopausal symptoms, and so that was huge to just be like, oh, this is normal, and there is power in numbers.
Yes, there is. Well, I'm so excited. I wish there was a nursing course I could take where I could just do that, because I would go back if that was
There's menopause coaches. They're not specifically nurses, but Menopause Society will certify you as a coach.
I saw that recently. I saw that through that. There's a site called, I think it's called Perry or something like that. I gotta look that up again. But okay, so if you are in the San Diego area and you are interested in looking for a menopause doctor, please go to sandiegomenopause.com and you can read all about Dr. Jennifer Davis here, and you can book an appointment there online. And she's also on Instagram at San Diego Menopause. And for information about a doctor in your area, if you're not in this area, you can go to the Menopause Society at menopause.org and look under the physician. There's an area that you can check and find a physician in your area. And we referenced Dr. Mary Claire Haver a few times. She has a book out called The Pause Life, and you can go to thepauselife.com. Actually, her book is
The New Menopause.
The New Menopause, but her website is thepauselife.com, and she's also at Dr. Mary Claire on Instagram. Great resource there too, constant feed of information. And please, if you have a television or a computer or a phone, you can go to pbs.org and download or watch the M Factor movie. It's 1 hour. I suggest you and your partner sit down and watch it together, because you'll be doing this. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's me. That's me. And it's not cute. Look, see, I'm not crazy. It is really a good resource for everyone. And I mean, I almost want to sit down my kids and be like, look, this is why mom is, snapping at you, So I think that's really important. Education is the key. And a couple other books out there, Generation M by Dr. Jessica Shepard and Estrogen Matters by Avram Blooming and Carol Tavris. I might have said that wrong. But this has been a great, informative episode. Thank you so much. I feel vindicated. I needed this. I need everyone else to have seen this, because it's very important. And I appreciate your support.
Yeah,
always.
I feel empowered. I mean, we started with reading a menopause book together and listening to podcasts and just getting a better understanding as to what's going on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you just having the patience and having the conversation, and hopefully we can share this with, every man that I'm connected with, to be able to stay in love, stay in a relationship.
Can I give you the good news?
Yes, please.
It's going to get better. Late perimenopause is the most volatile time as we sail through menopause. Downregulate those estrogen receptors, get on hormone. It is easier. The easier part is coming.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yes, we absolutely appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was
course.
fun.
Yeah.
It was super fun.
And to all of you out there, thank you for joining us for another episode of Couples Unfiltered. As always, please like, follow, subscribe, and go to YouTube, catch the Coffee Conversations.
Yeah, and go to our website if you want to, check in on some of the other episodes and some of the upcoming episodes. That's couplesunfiltered.com. And we're on Instagram at couples_unfiltered. And we have a new email. It is hosts@couplesunfiltered.com.
Yeah.
So we still have the Gmail, but, a little more professional.
Yeah. So email us if you have questions. Please reach out to us, or if you just want to have a conversation. We're always looking for couples.
Thanks. See you next time.